Back on the Rivercats pregame show, we are in Salt Lake City and have a night game for the first time in a couple of days, the Rivercats and the Salt Lake Bees, and I'm joined by assistant hitting coach Rob Riggins. And Rob, it's been great to get to know you. You actually in your third year in the Giants system. You were in the Dominican the last couple of years, so talk about a far cry from where you were to where you are now for a lot of different reasons.
I was really grateful the Giants gave me a chance 3 years ago, and it's really a much different animal going from the bottom of the farm system to the top of it.
It's just been great getting to know you. It's in particular been great getting to know your story. You were going to go work for the Brewers, and then the pandemic hit, and then it kind of turned your life into a little bit of a whirlwind. Can you kind of just take us through your timeline of working? You're getting hired by the Brewers, and then COVID happens, and then what you did from there?
So in 2019, I was hired by the Brewers, convinced my wife to quit her job as an x-ray tech. I quit teaching, and we moved out to spring training in Arizona. We were there for about 10 days, and then COVID hit. Everything got shut down. They cut my position. So we had to move in with her parents in Amarillo, Texas. And I had to take the highest paying job I could get, which at the time was an assistant butcher at the grocery store in Amarillo. And then from there, I started a business in Amarillo, Texas with a good friend of mine. I was a junior college hitting coach in Scranton, Pennsylvania at Lackawanna Junior College, and did a newspaper route at 3 a.m. And then in the fall of 2021, I was hired by the Giants. They offered me the DSL job, and so then I've been with the Giants for the last 3 years.
So you want to work in baseball. That's pretty much, it's for some what your path might be. You try and figure out where your next stop is going to be, and you've landed in a great spot here with the Giants and at AAA. What's the experience been like for you going from the Dominican to AAA, and you can hit on, in terms of player development or just in terms of your own personal experience?
I think it's been a little bit easier because everyone's mostly fluent in English, so the learning curve of Spanish in the DR was a little difficult. I think the margin for error with a lot of guys is a lot smaller. Like, you don't see these big adjustments like you do with the young Latin players. So that's been the biggest thing. And then everybody's just one good day away from being in the big leagues. So it's exciting to be a part of that process.
Tell us a little bit about your baseball background. Eastern New Mexico University?
Yeah, Eastern New Mexico, go Greyhounds. So I was actually a pitcher. My freshman year of college, I was diagnosed with 2 heart defects. So I didn't get to play in college. And so I started coaching at 18. So this is actually my 19th year coaching baseball overall.
Where did your love of baseball stem from?
I grew up in a lot of small towns in New Mexico, and baseball, it was either basketball or baseball. Like, we didn't have football teams, and I was terrible at basketball. So everything, like every day after school, we'd play home run derby with me and my brothers in the backyard, and we'd watch the Braves on TBS and the Cubs on WGN. And I just fell in love with it. That's all I wanted to do every day. And then even when I became a teacher so I could still coach baseball, and the goal was I have to figure out how to only just be a baseball coach.
Joined by assistant hitting coach Rob Riggins on the pregame show here from Salt Lake City, and a great story. And I want to discuss the paper, the thesis that you wrote. I wrote it down so I wouldn't say the name wrong. Baseball bat. I can't even read my own writing.
Baseball bat attack angles and their in-game correlations.
There you go. It was the attack. The attack was giving me problems with chicken scratches. But what prompted you to write that thesis? And I'm not all the way through it yet. I kind of take it piece by piece. But tell us what prompted you to write it, and kind of what you wanted to accomplish with it.
So one of my big life goals was always to be a college coach. Like, I wanted to coach at the college level. And since I didn't play, I applied for jobs for 10 years and I couldn't even get an interview. And so my thought was, if I got a master's thesis in athletic administration, then maybe I'd be taken more seriously. So I thought if I did a thesis research, then I could kind of prove that I know something about baseball. So I picked hitting because that was the one thing I knew the least about. And so we bought blast sensors, we bought a Rapsodo ball flight tracking unit, and then I worked 4 jobs for about 18 months so I could afford to buy an Edgertronic slow motion camera to do this thesis. And then I put it all together and I put it out on Twitter and hoping foolishly that a college coach would read it and maybe want to talk to me. But then I put it out there, and I got interviewed in 2019 by the Cubs and the Yankees, and the Brewers all expressed interest in it. And so, yeah, that's where this all turned into the job I have now. I really just wanted to be a college coach. I had no idea that this path that God put me on would put me here.
It's pretty incredible. What did you ultimately find out by the end of that thesis, or do you have any kind of dogmatic thoughts on hitting?
So the biggest thing when I was in high school was I was always taught to swing down and try to create as much backspin as possible, and my paper disproved that entire theory. So basically, you want to line up the center of mass of the bat and the ball as much as possible, and the angle at which you do that with is going to determine like whether it's a ground ball, line drive. So the general conclusion was attack angle and center of mass offset was the most influential aspects of the collision.
It's pretty incredible stuff. Baseball bat attack angles and their in-game correlations. Again, if you want to check that out. And before I let you go, what's your podcast?
Heavy Metal Baseball Podcast. And the metal is spelled Mettle.
Love that. Rob, thanks so much for coming on. We'll catch up with you again down the road. Definitely want to get your thoughts on some of these hitters, but such a great story and appreciate you coming on. Thanks, man.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You got it. That's Rob Riggins. We'll come back and have the starting lineups and first pitch from Salt Lake City next on the River Cats Digital Network.